Members, we have a quorum. The meeting is now called to order. We will have our meeting until 7 p.m. We have over 100 deputations, so we'll have a break for lunch between 1:30 to 2:30, so that we can have a lunch break. We have 82 deputations, 74 individuals, or rather 80 or so groups, and then 70 or so individuals. And we'll have 4 sessions. Each session will last for 2 hours, and 1:30 to 2:30 is the lunch break. And I will let the deputations speak first. And each group or individual will be given 3 minutes only, because we have many deputations today. And after they have spoken, I will open the floor to members so that you can ask questions and give comments, and then I will ask the administration to give a short response. I don't know whether members agree with that arrangement. If it is agreeable, then let us invite the government officials into the room. Well, I am the village representative of Long Ku Tan village. Long Ku Tan is one of the proposed reclamation site. There are altogether 82 groups and 74 individuals coming to today's meeting. May I welcome the government officials, the representatives of the groups, and also individuals. The name list has been put before you, so I'm not going to introduce them one by one. May I now invite the groups and individuals to speak. Each group or each individual will be given 3 minutes to speak. Your written submission and also oral submission will not be protected by the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance, Cap 382. May I now invite the representative of the Hong Kong Construction Industry Employees General Union to speak. Chairman, my surname is Fong. We support suitable reclamation outside the Victoria Harbour. This is to create more jobs, build more public housing, And we suggest to the administration that it should use less damaging way of reclamation. This will reclamation will increase land supply, and this is to deal with long-term housing. More than 20,000 households are waiting on the general waiting list for public housing, and there are also people living in subdivided flats, and people have little chance of getting PRH, and we hope that the government can solve the problem. If we do not reclaim any land from the sea, where do we get land? Land resources are mainly located in the green belts and also country parks. Any change in land use is subject to objections. Say, for example, the development of NT Northeast into new towns have encountered a lot of problems and objections. So how can there be any land? Therefore, our union supports reclamation in remote areas. This will create large pieces of land for developing new towns. There will be new urban planning, and there will be big housing estates. And this will also increase population. And this will also create jobs. According to the Census and Statistics Departments, the construction industry in the fourth quarter has an unemployment rate of 4.9%, which is the highest among the various trades and industries. We therefore support a large-scale reclamation to create more construction industry, more jobs in the construction sector. There will be more demand for technicians and engineers. This will provide jobs for those who are underemployed. This will also enhance the skills of frontline workers. Reclamation can make good use of C&D waste. Every year we produce about 600 to 700 construction demolition waste. And we put it in the landfill bank in Chengquan-o, and then we send it to Chongshan or Kaiping for reclamation, and we have to pay the mainland authorities $2 billion per year to do reclamation for them. But these fill materials are very useful, and they can fill as big as 48 Victoria parks. They can build 10 big housing estates, and we don't need to pay additional money to the mainland. Thank you, Mr. Fong. The next. Ms. Angus Ho of the Greeners Action. The Greeners Action oppose the reclamation program. The government does not have long-term population plan and urban plan. We have limited land, just 1,100 square kilometers. Our population keeps growing. The government says that there is no land, there is a need to increase land supply, but we can see that a lot of land in the urban areas. Say, for example, in the urban area there are golf courses. How can that be justified? And we need to have sustainable social planning. The government says that there is not enough land, and that looks fancy, and the construction industry comes to support the government's reclamation program. But we need to consider the overall interests of Hong Kong and also the interests of our future generation. After land is reclaimed from the sea, there is less shoreline, less natural resources. You ask people to be rational. If you are really rational, you should look at the demand. How can you justify that large quantity of land? Let us consider how much land we have. Now, after you fill up the sea, are you going to build luxurious flats? Many green groups, many organizations in the new territories have come up to speak against that. Reclamation does not benefit the ordinary people. We are not talking about 5 years or the term within C.Y. Leung's term. we need a long-term projection of our population. You say there is not enough land, but we don't have any population policy. How can you make a correct projection? Now you say that the population will grow to 8.89 million. In the past, there was a wrong projection, and the administration revised it to 8.47 million. We don't have a population policy, and yet we only have the number for incoming immigrants. Hong Kong has a carrying capacity as said by CY, and Hong Kong faces many challenges. He mentioned that in the policy address, but he doesn't propose any action. We need to plan our population. If you don't have a population policy and if people keep coming, then you have a problem. We can, just like the argument that we can't keep building roads if we have increasing traffic. We shouldn't reclaim land blindly. Next, Mr. Wong Chun-bong of South Lama Concern Group. We are non-indigenous people living in Lama Island. We are not as strong as the Heng Yi Kok, but I hope that the chairman will notice that in consulting the public, the government has to a certain extent ignored the outlying islands. They are going to build an artificial island near Lama, and they also have a program for Po Toi and Peng Chau and Cheung Chau. I believe members has got a document. They mention the artificial island in central waters, but it doesn't tell us where is the artificial island and how big it is. There is no detail at all. Many residents think that it's not their business. Unlike Ma Liu Soi or Long Ku Tan, the area is put on the map, or the reclamation area is drawn on the map, but for the central waters, artificial island, there is no indication of where it is. If there is an artificial island to the north of Lama, then that will be in the way of the fairway for vessels going to the harbor, and that may cause danger to the vessels. As for the consultation, in the first phase, I attended a workshop. At the meeting, many speakers queried the precondition or queried the assumption. It said that there is not enough land, but there are many private clubs which have occupied a lot of land from the government, and there are land for the new territory, small houses, and also in Kai Tak there are many private buildings planned, and there aren't enough public housing. Now, there are a lot of queries. In the first stage of consultation, such queries were raised, but it seems that the government has just ignored that. And the consultation is done in Qingyi, and but people have little knowledge about that. Shouldn't they consult more people in the new territories?
Unfortunately, I lost my notes, so I just have to speak off the cuff. I was given this interesting little book to jog my memory. We were promised a six-prong approach on this land issue: rezoning, resumption, redevelopment, reclamation, rock caverns, reuse, quarry. Stage one, consult public on land supply strategy. It was found that there was no consensus on reclamation. In the panel in March 2012, at which unfortunately no LegCo members were present, at least not when I was speaking, 40 of the representatives were against it, 10 had reservations, 14 were for, and these were all engineers and vested interests like Franklin Lamb, and 3 were non-identifiable. I now find that when I go to this booklet, work of fiction, you will notice that all the stuff that's for the reclamation and for broad support, and that is in bold letters, a strong background and everything. And then the negative issues are in light colour and very small print, so that people are inclined to overlook it. It says here, major views on reclamation, diverse views. That does not give the true picture. There is not diverse views. There is a very, very strong public opposition to this. And I also want to ask how we've got from this stage 1 public engagement to suddenly being in the throes of further technical studies, environmental impact assessment, when there isn't even any consensus in the community on this topic. LegCo members have to ask, what were the findings with regard to rezoning, resumption and redevelopment? Why is all the emphasis on reclamation? We'll forget about rock caverns, that's just a small issue. We want to know more about the 200,000 empty units. Why all this frenzy to build more units when there are already so many empty units, and all we're going to get are more luxury units left empty as investment vehicles? Is the government afraid of upsetting the large developers with land banks and the Hungy Cook and the new territories? Is this why the emphasis is on the reclamation? Paul Chan in his blog begs support for reclamation as an easy option. We don't want easy. Hong Kong can afford to do things right. We don't have to go down the easy street. We go down the best sustainable way. We also need a credible census so that we know who the population is, what the population is composed of, what its needs are, and a credible projection of the future population of Hong Kong. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Mr. Lam Kit Yin, Chairman of Hong Kong Institution of Engineering Surveyors. Good morning. I represent the Hong Kong Institute of Engineering Surveyors. Well, just like in 1PE, we agree that we should have a land reserve, and we support reclamation outside Victoria Harbour and also the development of caverns. Now, this is no longer a question of whether we should do it or not, rather, but how. The institution is of the view that we should encourage the administration to, in the next half of the year, do more detailed and scientific research studies. For instance, reclamation outside of Victoria Harbour, the administration should use the state-of-the-art technology such as remote sensory sensing, so that there can also be simulated models, so that the public as well as the government departments can ascertain the proposed reclamation, what is the impact of the proposed reclamation on the environment. I think in the long-term reclamation and cavern development, well, such data will be useful for future projects. And we believe such information will help the public to have a better basis for discussion, so that when we discuss these issues, we have more concrete data for our information and also to form the basis of discussion. Regarding cavern development, we want the administration to gather more information so as to find out the impact on the surroundings. For instance, would there be a settlement and an impact on the foundation of surrounding buildings. Last year, we said that the government should have longer-term database and studies so that we can use this information to form the basis of our discussion. This will assist the public to have a better understanding of the whole thing so that we can discuss the issues in a more objective manner. We're able to see the short, medium, and long-term implications. Thank you. We have Mr. Dennis Kwan, Land Supply Task Force member of the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, Hong Kong. Good morning. We must have enough land for the successful development of Hong Kong, and therefore we must have sustainable and predictable supply of land in the long term. So we are supportive of the government's proposals. Regarding reclamation outside Victoria Harbour, we believe it is necessary, bearing in mind the following points. First, the government has proposed a white site concept, that is to reclaim the land first before determining its use. Well, we should think twice about this. Now, if we reclaim a site before knowing it's used and before we know its use, how can we ensure that the supporting infrastructure is there? We have to know the future use as well as the future population. If we don't have such information, we cannot get the support of the community and LegCo. And therefore, before we reclaim land, we have to know at least what will be the possible use of the site. Will it be for polluting industries? Will it be for public infrastructure? So on and so forth. We need more information before we can say we support or not. And we have to consider infrastructure nearby. For instance, Sunny Bay, there is already a railway there, and how would the site be used? I think the public have legitimate expectations that the administration should tell us what the site will be for before reclamation, because land supply is very tight in Hong Kong. We can't afford to decide after the land is reclaimed. It's good to build up a land reserve. That is, if land supply is abundant, we can only afford to decide on the land use if we have abundant supply of land. Now we have sites, and we must have sites available for housing development and hotels development. Cavern development, I don't think we can apply this concept to a very large extent because of the shortage of land in Hong Kong. Still, we support this, but it also depends on the cost effectiveness. Will the cost be so exorbitant that we won't want to do it? Okay, thank you very much. Next, Mr. Kung Shilfai, Hong Kong Fishery Alliance. Thank you. In a first PE, I criticized the report because there was no mention of fishermen. Again, in this second report, there's 4 mention of white dolphins, 1 fish sea ecology, and also there was mention of fisheries. But what about fishermen? Aren't they human beings? Well, 2/5 of our earliest population were fishermen, but now the population has dwindled. Can you imagine if you want to build oil tanks in Alaska, you don't have to consult the Eskimos. Now, if you want to develop Amazon basin, don't you have to consult the indigenous residents? We so barbarous. We still really trying to bully the disadvantaged group. So The trawling ban was announced 6 months ago, and now you want to reclaim land. You want to farm land and then sell the land for government revenue. So you rely on land development to support the whole community. How can we make any progress? Some professionals say that there is no way out because there is too much objection. But do you consider the wish of fishermen? They have to rely on the sea for their livelihood. If you reclaim the sites, then they will lose their livelihood. If you work as a security guard, you earn more than $10,000 a month. And what about steel benders? They can also earn a lot. The engineers say that we need to grasp this 10 years of golden age, but the one who advocated this is no longer in EXCO. Do they really work for the benefits of Hong Kong? They all own properties in the UK. So many people, including legislators here, do not practice what they preach. They don't really treat Hong Kong as their home. And the most upper echelon of government, they'll be earning their salaries are packed at a range D1 to D8. Now, fishermen do not like to take to the streets, but we have protested a number of times. How can you ensure that fishermen will be well taken care of? You claim that there will be studies and research, but we don't have any confidence in the government at all. I hope everyone in this chamber will ask themselves, have you ever considered the needs of fishermen? They represent a culture. They are a very unique group. If they're lost, if their culture is lost, it will be lost forever. Thank you very much. Order, please. Mr. Chang Yao-kit, Chairman of Hong Kong Fishermen and Aquatic Commerce Association. Thank you. Our association includes fishermen, wholesalers, and retailers. Since CY Leung has become CE, he has banned trawling in Hong Kong. So fishermen and wholesalers and retailers in Hong Kong have to sell only fish from mariculture. You say that freshwater fish is very affordable. In fact, they are fed with chemical feeds. So we are very against reclamation in Hong Kong. So CY Leung, well, before he ran in the race, he came to tell us that he would support fishermen. But after he was elected, he imposed a ban on trawling in Hong Kong. So fishermen who engaged in trawling in the past have sold almost all of their vessels. Fishermen have to live out of the sea. Some got a few $1 million in compensation. Rather, they got only $100,000 odd in compensation. And they don't really have a roof above their head. They have no accommodation. So the government treats fishermen as if they were dogs. Hong Kong started as a fishing port. I don't know what the government is doing. Retailers, wholesalers, and fishermen are against reclamation. And CY Leung's government is a liar. He claims that he wants to conserve our fisheries resources. It is good that I think he should come to meet with fishermen representatives. Reclamation is not conservation. So we fishermen say that CY Leung has no concern for fishermen, and officials of CY Leung's government have forced the fishermen to sell all their vessels. Thank you. Mr. Cheng Kai Shing of Llama Island Fishing Promotion Association. Thank you. Reclamation will have a major impact on our fishermen. Now, you may be able to have land by reclamation, but have you considered the pollution to the sea and the impact on fishermen? Has the administration given us any benefits in return? Are you going to buy back our fish raft, or will you give us compensation? And hundreds of trawlers have been banned in Hong Kong. They work in Hong Kong waters, but they don't have any compensation. Now, if you reclaim land here, then the polluted seawater would affect our fish raft. There is no consultation of the industry. There is no advice on safety. And we are in the NT for decades. Indigenous villages have small houses, but we fishermen are not entitled to that. We are not given any compensation, and we do not have any small house policy to cover us. Thank you. Mr. Feng Tim Kam, Hong Kong and Kowloon Floating Fishermen Welfare Promotion Association. Thank you. Yes, I am a fisherman. A year or so ago, trawlers were banned because we were accused of damaging the marine environment. So we listened to the government's advice. We accepted the scheme, thinking that that would benefit our future generation. And then just a year or so afterwards, there is the proposal of massive reclamation outside Victoria Harbour. Isn't it unfair to fishermen? Now, let me tell you, I'm an example. I am now forced to do business outside Hong Kong. It is difficult to compete on the mainland. Because the fishermen may claim that because they have placed traps for crabs, we are not allowed to work in that area. Now, I have not earned a penny since the beginning of this year, so you might have compensated me a few $millions, but I can not find a livelihood. And the government say that if you cannot adapt to the environment outside Hong Kong waters, you can come back to Hong Kong and then you can use other modes of fishing. Now, you say that there will be a lot of reclamation. Here and there will be a reclamation. You will affect our 200-odd vessels coming back to Hong Kong from outside Hong Kong waters. So how are they supposed to make a living? So the government doesn't practice what it preaches. So you are really cheating fishermen. We are totally illiterate. We know nothing. So if you reclaim this site, we have to rely on the sea for livelihood. How much is left of Hong Kong waters for fishermen to work on?
So
the fishermen also have a second generation. Now you've taken away our livelihood. In the future, when we have no shelter, we have no livelihood, just a few million, how can it sustain a family of a few people? We want to come back to Hong Kong, and you're telling us this bad news. It's a terrible impact on us. Next, Mr. Michael Lau from WWF Hong Kong. The WWF is against Siu Ho Wan and Guan land reclamation because this is near the white dolphin natural habitat. We see that between 2003 and 2011, the population of the white dolphin has decreased by 50%. And currently there are a lot of large-scale projects in the cyclone area, including the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, the Dongchong New Town, the third runway. So we see that the natural habitat of the white dolphin will further deteriorate. So before they face the threat of a dwindling population, we feel that there should not be any more land reclamation in the cyclone area. To increase land bank through reclamation is a destruction of natural habitat. It also impacts the fishing industry and the fishermen's livelihood. Just now we heard from the fishermen the reclamation will also offset the ban on trawling and its effect on restoring natural resources. We forecast that within 5 to 10 years of the ban on trawling, the fish stock should increase, but these benefits will be offset by reclamation. So the WWF feels that in conducting land reclamation, we should also consider the fish stock. And the Hong Kong has already signed the Convention to Natural Biodiversity Convention, so we should consider all these factors. It's not just conservation. It also affects certain industries such as fishing, lumber. These need to be taken into consideration. By considering these factors, we can chart a course of sustainable development. We therefore need to have a comprehensive environmental impact assessment. We should calculate the social costs, the environmental costs. The social costs includes fishermen livelihood, the fishing industry. It also should include the Hong Kong public's living conditions. So after considering all these factors, we can make a decision that is in line with our long-term developmental needs. Next, we have Mr. Lau Zhengong from Hong Kong Institute of Surveyors. Good morning. The Institute of Surveyors observe that land reclamation is an important source of land, so the Institute agree that there should be reclamation outside of Victoria Harbour to meet our current and future needs. But the Institute is also aware that aside from reclamation costs, there are other infrastructure costs, and this could be prohibitively expensive. So we need to examine carefully the land that we get, how should it be used to satisfy Hong Kong's needs, especially regarding housing needs. So if we have low density development, then the cost and benefit might not satisfy our requirements. Given our housing shortage, if you look at the 5 reclamation sites, we only see Ma Liu Shui, that its stated purpose will be for housing. The other 4 sites might serve as a land bank, logistics, or tourism. But in the government reports, aside from Sunny Bay, because of the airport, the other sites can be used for residential purposes. Well, we hope that the government can conduct a study and indicate what the major purposes of these sites will be and how they can satisfy Hong Kong's needs. The reclamation, even though we might have a different infrastructure development, if the site is too small, then it might not be that efficient. We also are aware that in southwest of Qingyi, there's a lot of potential there, but we need to consider the industrial use. In Longgutan, we're aware that the industrial use could be relocated. If it is for residential use, then the different needs have to be balanced. On the artificial island, that's also a very important consideration. It might be built into a new town. So we would like the government to consider the new territory's land. So in summary, the government should look at reclamation feasibly more thoroughly. Next, Mr. Alvin Young from Civic Party. We've already provided a written submission, so my 3 minutes will just focus on the major issues. And I want to focus on Mali Usoi, and I hope the administration can respond. If you look at the consultation document map, you can identify that it is on the it's in the Shingmun River area, and if you are familiar with that, you should understand that there is a backflow of water. The residents there suffer. For example, just last week during the black rainstorm, the pedestrian tunnels had a flooding problem. Between 2001 to 2005, the government spent 85 million on improvement works. Well, the money has been spent, but at the same time, there has been some improvement. But as I said just now, the flooding of Shingmun River this problem has not been resolved. And now you want to narrow the area and reclaim another 50 hectares. So are you saying that the 85 million spent will be wasted? And do you want to plunge the residents along the Shingmun River into further depths? Do you want the pedestrian tunnels to be flooded out again? We don't see any positive response from the government. We don't see what the government has to say. A responsible government should explain the pros and cons. That the government has the most information. Why do political parties have to remind you of this? We feel this is severely deficient. Regarding the cavern development and wastewater treatment, well, the government has spent tens of millions of dollars on sewage treatment facilities. A couple of years ago, tens of millions were spent. Now you're relocating the sewage treatment facility, and now you're saying, is that money well spent? A lot of civilian institutions had highlighted these problems, but the government cannot avoid these issues because this was taxpayer money spent. So the government should not avoid us regarding these issues. Ms. Bonnie Leung from Young Civics. The Civic Party representative focused on some highlights. Now highlight some principles. In the first phase of consultation, the government had stated that it's to meet the rising population needs and improving housing needs. We can see that land should be used on building government housing. At the time, the Pacific Party had pointed out that reclamation outside Victoria Harbour should only be conducted when there are no other options. Reclamation has to serve public interests, and there should be full participation in public consultation. There should also be blueprints. It should not just serve as a land bank, but unfortunately in the second phase of public consultation, They disclose that it's not to serve as public housing, but it's going to be a land bank, and they did not state a clear purpose for the land. And then there was no forecast for land needs in the coming future. They could not explain why there were no options other than reclamation. They could not provide any cost-benefit analysis. The Civic Party feels that there should be a long-term urban planning, a long-term demographic planning to ensure that we meet environmental standards and per capita housing standards. The government also needs to consider how to use current land efficiently. The Development Bureau said that there was 390 hectares of land that was not housing land that was not being used. We have different lots of lands available over the years that were not developed. So the government needs to answer on these questions. So before we talk about reclamation, before we consult on reclamation, we feel this is putting the horse before the cart. Maliu Soy in Longgutan was stated to be a housing use, 60 hectares. It is only some 2% of total land. It's near Gao San. We feel that it will be used as a luxury housing. The chances of government housing being built are very low. So even though the government wants to build housing in Longgutan, but it's not suitable for living. There are utilities, steel factories, and building housing there is not suitable. Thank you. Mr. Yu Sayam from Hong Kong Construction Association. Ever since Hong Kong was established, we have relied on land reclamation. New towns such as Sa Tin, Tuen Mun, Tin Shui Wai, Zhangguanou, Dongchong were all built on reclaimed land. Looking back, if we didn't have land reclamation, we wouldn't have new towns. How would our housing situation be? A recent survey indicated that some 170,000 people lived in subdivided flats, plus the government housing queue. A lot of Hong Kong people are looking forward to reclamation to meet housing needs. We now have conservation requirements. So we feel that as long as a balance can be struck, reclamation outside Victoria Harbour is feasible. We have very advanced technology now. The environmental impact could be minimized. In the 70s and 90s, because of new town development, there was a lot of maritime projects. There were barges operating, and a lot of crew were employed, but in the last few decades there were 0 projects. The majority of barges have been sold. The crew have been unemployed. The Construction Association supports sustainable development because aside from providing a stable land supply, it could also promote maritime opportunities. It can provide job opportunities for the fishermen, and it can also stimulate other service industries. So it's a multi-win situation. So we believe that as long as environmental assessment has been conducted, the works have been supervised, we can minimize the impact to the environment. And once again, the Hong Kong Construction Association supports sustainable land reclamation. Thank you. Mrs. Kami Gong Manyan from Federation of Electrical and Mechanical Contractors. In principle, we support the government strategy. We look forward to a 6-pronged approach. We do have some views, though. First of all, some areas are the natural habitat of the Chinese white dolphin. So during the works, the impact to the habitat has to be minimized. We also need to take full account of public views. So all the EIA reports should be disclosed for public discussion. Regarding marine biodiversity, we should have an independent assessment. Regarding fishermen or the impact of the artificial island, we could make reference to the Singaporean example. The island is now a biodiverse environment. It is built into a tourism education facility. So I think this can serve as a positive reference value. Other considerations are the use of the land bank. The government says it wants to develop hectares of land. How much can be enjoyed by the public? Will the government set aside land for education or ecotourism purposes? Can we also set a cap on private development and therefore strike a balance between government housing and private housing? There should not be a singular focus on private property development. So to summarize, we basically agree on the land use strategy, but before reclamation, disclosure of EIA reports are important. Mr. Yim Ginpeng from Project Management Exchange Center. Since 1997, the land, the release of land or the availability of land has slowed down markedly, and that's led to all kinds of problems. Insufficient land leads to rocketing real estate prices. The economic activity slows down. We don't have sufficient space for wine storage, for office space. We'll see more and more subdivided plots. We'll see an environment deteriorate. Our landfills need to be expanded. This is also a very big problem. Fifthly, development can assist conservation. If we drag our feet and waste time, society will have to pay the cost. For example, the third runway, because of a lack of planning, we now have the most expensive land reclamation solution, and it's all our own fault. And we recommend that the government, first of all, should develop large tracts of land, and it should rely on reclamation to build new towns. Caverns are also a very promising idea, and we need to have reclamation as soon as possible. It could bring down construction costs. We're talking about a factor of 10 or 20. We should build land banks. We don't need to be monopolized by the real estate developers.
And there should be more private participation, make use of market forces instead of using more public money, and we need to foster a social consensus. We need to balance the environment with development. The government should try to seek this social consensus. Next is Mr. Luke of the Society for Protection of the Harbour. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a representative of the Society for Protection of the Harbour. We oppose reclamation to solve the land shortage problem. Reclamation should be the last resort instead of the first option. before a wide consultation, before there is a thorough review, reclamation is not the option. Various groups have already said that we have precious natural resources. They are given to us by God, and we cannot destroy them. And if we destroy them, our future generations will not be able to enjoy them. In the new territories, there are country parks, and there are and besides the country parks, there are many pieces of land which have yet to be developed. And there's a need to consult widely in order to develop the unused land. It's not that we don't have land. We do have land, and we support developing the new territories. Reclamation, doing reclamation without meeting any specific need is wrong. The government proposes 5 sites and 25 other projects. It's completely wrong because reclamation is costly. It looks simple, but there are great difficulties. If you want to know what reclamation is, look at the Wan Chai waterfront. This is a very small-scale reclamation. It's only a temporary reclamation, and you know how polluting it is. Let's don't talk about fish or fishermen. Nothing can survive when there is reclamation. And you need to provide transportation, water, roads, railway, and other means of transport. During reclamation, the cost of reclamation is the highest if you compare with other options, and that would only increase land price because of escalating cost. What will be the price per square foot in the future on reclaimed sites? There is land in the new territories. The government can use its policy to solve the housing problem and population problem, so that everybody in Hong Kong can share the same responsibilities and rights. Next is Mr. Leung Chi Ming. I oppose the proposed reclamation projects. The fishermen representatives have already spoken on their difficulties. They have been cheated by CY Leung 689, and they gave the votes to them, but they now suffer. Now, Mr. Chan, the Secretary for Development, is not here. He just stays in his office writing blogs, and he doesn't care about people's views. And the government says that there is a lot of C&D waste, and the C&D waste, construction and demolition waste, can be used as materials for reclamation, and that's environmentally friendly. And that's environment friendly. But does it mean that to deal with C&D waste, we don't care, we just do reclamation? Reclamation is very damaging to marine ecology. Now, the Lantau waters is an area frequented by white dolphins, and reclamation will only cause dwindling of the numbers of white dolphins. The government wants to have the easy way out, it therefore doesn't go about, say, reclaiming land. Say, Long Ku Tan, there is a proposal to build residential buildings, but near Long Ku Tan, there are power generation plants and other obnoxious uses. How can people live there? The government has not done enough planning for the proposed sites. We really don't know the future land use of those reclaimed sites. Are they for luxury flats, or are they for public housing or HOS? The government keeps saying that there is shortage of residential units or shortage of houses. Why can't they plan beforehand? Some say that consultation is a waste of time. With more consultation, different views can be put forward, and this can avoid mistakes, just like the mistake of the express rail. Reclaiming blindly cannot be supported. Next is Professor So. Hong Kong has a total size of about 1,100 square kilometers. Developed land is less than 30%. There is a lot of room for development. But land is unique. Each piece of land is different because its topology, its topography, its quality, each piece of land is different. There is lack of planning in development. After 1997, there was the financial crisis and collapse of property market. The administration just want to salvage the market and stop supply of land. Now prices of land escalated, and the administration changed its course and tried to increase land supply. Without enough land supply, Hong Kong cannot develop. And with adequate land supply, there is development opportunities. Hong Kong has shortage of land. Land is precious. Cost of business is very high because of high land price. And there is a long queue on the waiting list, more than 220,000 families. If there is enough land, and then prices of land will not, or property will not go up as a result of shortage. Many say that land can, a lot of land is available, but you need to have enough advanced preparation. It takes several years to build houses. There must be a continuum in terms of land planning, land use planning. Now some say that there is a lot of vacant land and there is no need to increase land supply. Now from statistics that may be the case, but land supply shouldn't just be based on statistics. The vacant sites may have a lot of problems in terms of development. Why are they vacant? There must be some reasons to that. What are the constraints? We have to find it out. It doesn't mean that when there is a piece of land, we can make use of it immediately. And it is not just simple arithmetic. In terms of the supply of land, and people tend to think that development is just one-sided. There is the development of land can be put to different uses, not just residential or commercial use. We should adopt an open attitude towards caverns and also reclamation outside Victoria Harbour.
先生，
多謝主席，我係支持政府用多管齊下。
Next is Mr. Kevin Lau. I support the multi-pronged approach in enhancement land supply that includes reclamation outside the Victoria Harbour to increase land supply for housing. I'm a professional. I am brought up in Hong Kong. I respect human rights, animal rights, private property, so on and so forth. Building an artificial island is effective in providing a large piece of land without causing any title disputes, land title disputes. The central waters do not have any record of white dolphins, and it doesn't cause obstruction to the operation of fishermen. The artificial island increase supply of land. It doesn't cause obstruction to it doesn't cause problems to the livelihood of fishermen, nor will it harm the white dolphins. I propose that there will be a big artificial island between Qingyi and Lantau, and then the activities on the container activities can be brought to that island. The artificial island provides a large piece of land and it provides opportunity for centralizing logistics activities and container port activities. After relocation of the container port, there will be 300 hectares of formed site, and this big site can be developed into a new community. It can be a place for relocation, resettlement, so that the old urban areas of Tai Kok Tsui, Sam Shui Po, and Cheung Sha Wan can be redeveloped. It will also provide a long waterfront promenade from Chun Wan all the way to West Kowloon. At present, the waterfront is occupied by the container port. As for Lai King, Mei Fu, Lam Cheung, and Kwai Fong, Kwai Hing, the MTR line will provide efficient transport. Now, during a black storm or typhoon, the container trucks are trapped in the container port. But with the relocation of the container port, that congestion problem will go away. With the port move to container port move to the artificial island, there will be no container vessels going to Qingyi, and that help improve pollution. Next is Ms. Lin Hai-chi. I support the government's proposal to reclaim land and increase land supply. I came from the mainland, study in the university in Hong Kong. I began a new life. I'm a university graduate. We face a lot of pressure in terms of finding accommodation. I've graduated for 2 years, and I lived in a subdivided flat. It's just 100 square feet with the bedroom and toilet and kitchen in one place, and it's worse than a hostel unit in the university, and many young people are living in subdivided flats. We spent over a decade or so on studying, yet when we are graduated, our living conditions decline. Will our future be even worse? And what about future young graduates? Will they face deteriorating living conditions? Fresh graduates are not able to buy their own flats in the private sector, and they are not eligible to public housing. It is because Hong Kong doesn't have enough land, and we have a big population. And there are more than 230,000 applications for PRH, and the waiting time will be more than 3 years, and some have even wait for more than 8 years. With rising population, the waiting time will only lengthen, and people who are not eligible for public housing will live in poor conditions with a high rent. We have a population of 7.1 million, so the per kilometer density is about 700 people. After 30 years, the population will rise to 8.4 million, so 1,000 more per square kilometers. So the situation will be even worse. A fresh graduate has to save up money for 10 years in order to get the down payment, and get enough down payment, and he has to pay a mortgage for 30 or 40 years. One works for a whole life for a 300 or 400 square feet flat. I think the administration should build more public housing and HOS and pull down property prices. Without increased supply of land, we will have a bleak future. Without any increased land supply, a 400 unit will be subdivided into 3 or 4 units or even 5 units. Next is Ms. Wong-fat of Land Watch, Ms. Standing of Land Watch. Now we want to highlight this point. The government wants to increase its land bank by reclaiming land from the sea. That's the bone of contention. There is no objection to the use of rock caverns. As for reclaiming more land from the sea to increase the land bank, that can be discussed. That it should be open to discussion. The government wants people to support this proposal. But if the government wants us to support it, it has to do it matter well. The first issue is credibility. If people don't trust the government, then anything announced by the government is very confusing. I am a surveyor. Now the government puts something here on paper, and then on the next day it says that it's going to build something else, and then the Development Bureau says that some other things were put up on that site. So if the information is confusing, you can't get the support of the people. You need to be transparent. You need to be clear and precise. If you just write a few lines on a page and hope that people will support you, that's really impossible. Hong Kong lacks long-term plan for land use. You need to have a long-term plan concerning the sites. The green groups are concerned about environmental issues, and the fishermen have very strong views. It means that reclamation affects fishery and affects their living. You see, the fishermen are up in arms against reclamation, and you know that that affects their livelihood, and you don't know how to handle that. There should be a comprehensive socio-economic analysis on each piece of land. I believe there are opportunities. Say, for example, Qingyi South. You can reduce the scale of development, reduce the impact on transportation, and improve people's living condition. And then people may support that. But if you don't do anything and you just put up more things there, then people will oppose. You need to have more specific planning briefs. You should spell out the merits and demerits of reclamation. Thank you. Next, Mr. Liu Leung of the Hong Kong Institution of Engineers Civil Division. Good morning, honourable members of the Legislative Council. I will speak on population growth and reclamation. Reclamation has been an effective means and reasonable means and balanced means of providing land. In the past decade or so, there was no reclamation, and we are therefore facing the consequence of shortage of land. In the past decades or so, more people are coming from the mainland and from other parts of the world to live and work in Hong Kong, and young people want to build their own homes and therefore build their own families, and therefore there is a rise in demand for units.
As a result, rental has rocketed, and there are hundreds of thousands of people waiting for a PRH flat or living in subdivided units. So this is really a dead end for many people. They have no hope of becoming homeowners. So the only way out is to reclaim land again as soon as possible. Some people are strongly against reclamation outside Victoria Harbour. Let me cite an example. Last time at a public forum at Tai Hang Tong, a group of residents from Ocean View said that they were against reclamation at Ma Liu Shui. Well, they are living in housing development built on reclaimed land, so they oppose reclamation because they say that their view would be blocked. Is this objection ground valid. Isn't it a bit selfish? Some speakers said that white dolphins and sea ecology would be affected. Let me tell you that within our Hong Kong waters, within our boundary, we have more water than land. And the water size, the size of the water body just outside the Pearl River is bigger than what we have in Hong Kong. White dolphins are very smart. Now we can lay artificial reefs to breed more small fishes, and as well as shrimps and other species. And then we can learn from overseas examples. They can make use of artificial sea shoreline so that we can build up our own fisheries here, and then white dolphins will certainly come back to feed themselves. Well, this can be done along our shore, and we can also do it in the middle of our waters so that animals and human beings have their own habitats. Thank you. Mr. Kam Man Fong, Youth Committee Chairman of New People's Party. Good morning, Chairman and members. In 2011, the government proposed this way to enhance land supply. There were 3 objectives quoted: to meet the challenges of future population growth, second, to enhance the quality of living, and third, to grasp the future economic opportunities. So a 6-pronged approach was proposed. I was so happy because there were 6 ways to help Hong Kong to increase land supply. But the other 5 proposals are subject to a lot of constraints. Ex-quarry sites. How many ex-quarry sites do we still have? Lam Tei will only be usable after a long time, and then the size will not be that big. And then rezoning, redevelopment, and resumption. Well, these will not provide new land. It is just about better planning of existing land, and the timing is also important. We don't know how long we have to wait. For instance, for redevelopment to take place in Kowloon, there is an urban redevelopment consultation forum. Well, in To Kwa Wan, there have been many proposed redevelopment sites, but we don't know when they can be used for housing. So reclamation has a few merits compared with other proposals. First, the size will be considerable, and second, with certainty as to when land will be available for use. And thirdly, the government will have ownership or the right to use the new formed land, and that will benefit our long-term land use planning. We always say that only opportunities will be available to those who are prepared, and that goes the same for land. Well, you may think that this is a new idea. In the past, we reclaimed land only after we have determined how it's going to be used. But for land reserve, we may not have very concrete idea as to how the land will be used. Recently, we've been to Singapore. They have a excellent new tourism facility with a casino and a shopping mall and other facilities. When the land was reclaimed, nobody knew how it was going to be used. It was just put in the land reserve. Now it has become an excellent tourism site. So we want Hong Kong to grasp the future economic opportunities and to face up to the challenges brought about by population increase. So I think it's necessary that we have reclamation. Thank you. Mr. Johnny Chuk from Hong Kong Geotechnical Society. Thank you. We throw a weight behind the government as far as reclamation outside Victoria Harbour and cavern development is concerned. is already a well-known fact that we don't have enough land for economic development. Because of shortage of land, rental has rocketed, and it has also taken toll on our quality of living. Now, if you have children, if you're a young family, you know, we are so crowded already, and we don't have enough green space. Victoria Park and also Manshan Park are already taken over by foreign domestic helpers on public holidays. We don't have enough land for such facilities. Reclamation is a good way so that we can have a big site for proper planning. Small pockets of land will not allow comprehensive planning. We've been to other public forums. We understand that there are concerns about pollution caused by reclamation. However, new ways of reclamation can minimize pollution. In the past, dredging was needed, but new technology would allow the sludge to be dealt with on site. And we understand that the government will introduce new technology to restore the shoreline after reclamation. This is important. We're all concerned about white dolphins, but at the last public forum, experts told us that the population of white dolphins had dwindled, not because of reclamation, because it had stopped many years ago. It's all because of deterioration in the quality of the habitats because of more vessels applying Hong Kong waters. Chinese university students opposed reclamation. Well, I have taught in CityU, not in CU. It's true that the campus of CU is excellent. It enjoys an excellent sea view, but do we have to pay such a heavy price for the sake of keeping the sea view? Well, I have young kids. I hope that they can make it to Chinese university as well. I hope the students there can think for the future generation. Well, we've always used caverns, although to not a large extent. For instance, Tai Kwu MTR station is one example. I think we are well positioned to develop caverns for other users. So I hope the government can use cavern development and reclamation to increase land supply for Hong Kong. Thank you. Mr. Fukaho. Is it true that we're so short of land? Do we need to build a big land reserve? Can we solve all the social problems just by increasing land supply? Many civic organizations have commented on this, and I will not repeat their views. Now, the government has proposed reclamation at Lung Ku Tan, Shih Ho Wan, Sunny Bay, and Tsing Southwest. Well, they are either at the margins of Hong Kong, and they are also very close to the mainland. Well, the landing point of the Hong Kong-Macau Ridge are just 20-30 minutes away by car, and then the Western Corridor will take you to Shih Ho Wan very easily. They're just 20 minutes away from Lok Ma Chau and Lo Wu Harbour crossing, boundary crossing. So it's very easy for people from the mainland to reach these places. So if you develop these places, is it really for the sake of Hong Kong people? Now, even if the land is zoned for PRH, because they enjoy good sea view and traffic is so accessible, so the government may end up using the sites for building very expensive luxury flats. Many years ago, when reclamation was proposed, it was planned that local residents can live there in West Kowloon, but now you see the luxurious flats there. And C.Y. Leung, you consider his personality. Only people with very strong Chinese background will win the tenders, and their credit or the reputation is very dubious. Now, if they go bankrupt in the future, will they affect public finances? Will these companies cut corners in the quality of construction because of corruption? So this will not just affect our infrastructure. We should not tie up. We should not support the development of mainland. We have to ensure that the culture of corruption and bribery will not affect us. According to the attendance list, Mr. Porcher will appear, but what we see there is just an empty chair. Mr. Chen only likes to write blocks behind the computer. He doesn't dare to face up to the public here. Ms. Yue Chuan, I support the government's strategy. We do not have enough supply of offices, and rental is among the highest in Hong Kong. Multinational companies are affected, and they have moved their operations to places like Shanghai, affecting the job opportunities of Hong Kong people. Many private banks or iBanks have moved regional headquarters to Singapore. In 2011, Reuters reported that Singapore has benefited from office land shortage in Hong Kong. Rentals have risen in both places, but there is more abundant supply in Singapore because the company would make available commercial land for use. For instance, Marina Bay has attracted multinational companies such as Standard Chartered Bank and other major banks to set up their regional headquarters there. Take my company's example. We are stationed in a Grade A office site in Central. A senior secretary earns about $30,000 per month, and then the unit rent is $15,000. So sooner or later, most large companies will move their operations to Singapore, where the rent is cheaper. Office rent has risen by 20 to 30% every year. The unit rent of Grade A offices in Central is already $80–90 per square foot. For IFC, the average unit rent is $150. So if you want to rent a 1,000 square feet office, then you have to pay a very high rent. We all want to contribute to society. I've got a friend who has opened a vegetarian restaurant as a social enterprise. He has employed many disabled persons, and he told me that many social enterprises complained that rent is so high and they cannot cope anymore. So this is not just about employment and our economy. And many people will not be able to contribute to society as a result. Thank you. Ms. Sylvia Chen, Chairman, members of the panel, good morning. For young people like myself, who's worked for 6 to 7 years in Hong Kong, we were born in Hong Kong, we grew up here. Many of us would like to raise a family and become homeowners soon. We don't really like to take to the streets because people complain that the post-80s generations like to protest. Well, it's not just young people. I think everyone in Hong Kong would like to live in bigger flats. But the flats get smaller and smaller. For the new residential units, the average flat size is 100 or 200 square feet. And for subdivided units, 400 square foot apartment can give you 4 to 5 subdivided flats. The average living size of people in Hong Kong is smallest amount of world. We are 60% lower than that of Singapore. So we really need to have a solution. Apart from accommodation, young people also like to have recreational and entertainment activities. I have a friend who is the main voice of a band, and he plays music with his friends every week. And he's telling me that the band rooms are smaller and smaller, and because factory units are more and more expensive, and many of the bands cannot afford band rooms anymore. So if we don't have our own flat, if we have nowhere to enjoy ourselves, we will of course complain. So please make sure that there is enough land for housing, for recreation, and also entertainment activities. Thank you. Mr. Andrew Lam, thank you. Let's take a look at history. Well, Hong Kong's economy took flight only after the Second World War. And every year we were developing about 40 hectares of land. And well, in 1997, April, LegCo did a report, and back then there were 4,300 hectares of undeveloped land. We have only 1/10 left. For reclaimed sites, they gave us 67 hectares of land. There is almost 90% of the land for housing now. That's history. Today, as many speakers said, we have a waiting list of 220,000 in PRH. Whether we use figures by the government or from the community, we have 60,000 to 280,000 persons living in subdivided flats, assuming that half of them are not eligible for PRH. And in older districts, many small shops have closed because of high rental. All these are because of land supply. I would not argue on what should be the positioning of Hong Kong. Should we continue to be a free city like London, New York, where people can come to Hong Kong to work and study and live? We cannot turn a blind eye to the various housing, social, and economic issues facing us. What land do we have? About 50% of our land cannot be used, either because they are country parks or because of the need to conserve important ecological sites. For the remaining 25 to 36%, how long is it going to last? You cannot use them immediately because they already have existing users. Take the outdoor storage as example. We have about 800 hectares of land used for open storage. If we want to use land in the NT, we have to deal with these sites first. Will reclamation be a feasible alternative? Well, in the long term, there must be strategic reclamation in order to solve the problems.
I'm speaking on behalf of the Democratic Party. And first of all, I need to have officials answer. Chen Maobo, where is he? Please take a look. Are they really listening to the public's views? And Chen Maobo likes to blog, and he says it's a far-sighted approach to deal with coming future demand. But we see in the past the government does not have a long-term strategy to look at land use in Hong Kong. All they have is a piecemeal approach. So we hope, the Democratic Party hopes that there should be a territory-wide strategic review, and the government should consider subsidized housing, and the sites identified, there are only 1 or 2 that have been set aside for government housing. The rest are either for cargo terminals or other dangerous and not in my backyard facilities. So in the coming few years, we need to have a review, so in order to have a sustainable land supply, and we shouldn't see real estate prices skyrocketing. We also need to look at the unused land. There's some 2,000 hectares that's left untouched. We also have some 800 hectares of government barracks and other agricultural land. So will that be just left alone, and should we go and pursue reclamation instead? Yeah, but reclamation is irreversible. We have to look at all the fallow land, unused land. Do we just leave it alone? We also heard the different views for and against reclamation. We see that when the government lacks credibility, people have no confidence in government policies. We have some GIC land that was ultimately used to build residential housing. So who will believe you when you say the land reclaimed will be for public housing or recreational space? We have so many people. Just now we heard the issue about subdivided flats. So we have our suspicions. The 30s group, Mr. Benson Look. The 30s group, Education and Youth Affairs Working Group, feels that through our efforts, we now have our success. But if you're talking about cavern development, reclamation affecting natural habitat, then if you develop the country parks, people will be criticized. But if we don't resolve the problem, then there will be an imbalance in land, in housing supply. If we don't have sufficient government housing, rental housing, it's hard to even deal with other economic development requirements. So cavern development and reclamation is a simple, direct method to get new land. When we have insufficient land, I think it would be too late to do research now. So we feel building a land bank is the only way to take the initiative in land supply. But any reclamation or cavern development, the principle should be making Hong Kong a more comfortable city. From a local's perspective, Hong Kong has a lot of reclamation and cavern successes. We have Sha Tin, IFC, the Chinese U, some 10% of it is on reclaimed land. Hong Kong U also released some land by relocating reservoir into a cavern. So we have benefited from these measures. There have also been people saying, have land use rights been denied because there's a lack of public consultation? But if you look at all the consultation, research, and time spent on these issues, it takes some 15-20 years to release land. So when we talk about land use in 20-30 years time, so how do we balance the different stakeholders' needs? Land reclamation and cavern development is feasible, but it needs conditions. We need to have environmental impact assessment. Second, the government lacks credibility, so it needs to explain its policies, including urban planning, EIA consultation, and so on. Mr. Dixon Wong from Hong Kong Wildlife Net Forum. I'm speaking on behalf of the wildlife. They can't speak, but you're talking about new technology in land reclamation, eco shoreline. But are you aware that when you reclaim land, you are destroying their habitat? As one guest said, a natural shoreline is a gift from God. So the engineers or consultants should not be so arrogant as to believe they can create a habitat for wildlife. A guest also mentioned they talked about sustainable reclamation. Does that mean you reclaim continuously? And is that sustainable? When we talk about sustainability, it should be available for our children and grandchildren. I see there's less and less natural shoreline in Hong Kong. For example, in Long Mei Tan, it's a natural shoreline, but without any urgency, the government is now thinking of reclaiming that land there. In the past, we had to build new towns, and that's why we had to reclaim land, but we are almost reclaiming land on both sides of the Victoria, and this is a very important resource, even though we still have some natural shoreline on the eastern side, but on the western side it's almost all man-made now. These are our resources. I would like our harbor protection ordinance. I hope that it can protect the resources for our children and grandchildren. So engineers need to consider, are the projects necessary? They have to prove there's no other option, and there has to be a minimum impact. And lastly, those who support reclamation are engineers. It seems to be led by you. You want more projects and work, but our policy address spent $4.5 billion on research, and it's very disappointing. Mr. Vincent Ng from Institute of Urban Design. In the long term, setting up a land bank is something that should be conducted by a responsible government. If there is insufficient land, or if there's any obstacle, before kicking off research and planning, it's too late. The Institute of Urban Design feels that there should be a multi-pronged approach. The research should include change of land use, urban renewal, the reuse of quarry. So the government should explain the pros and cons so that the public can have a better understanding. The Institute of Urban Design agrees that reclamation outside Victoria Harbour is one way to build a land bank, but any reclamation should improve the livelihood as its main purpose. We have a shortage of public housing, and we've heard a lot of views that the land created from reclamation should be used on housing first before we build luxury housing. So we need to have urban planning come first. Aside from infrastructure and transport design, there should be considerations on building height, on ventilation, and so on. It also needs to integrate with the old community. We also need to have an environmental impact assessment, community impact assessment, to ensure that the reclamation does not affect natural habitat and will have the minimum impact. The government should also not conduct reclamation where there's areas of high ecological interest. And lastly, there should also be a long-term population policy. We should have a long-term blueprint. We need to consider what needs to be conserved, what needs to be developed, and there should be full public discourse and consensus. Thank you. Ms. Yao Yura, I'd like to respond. Mount San residents are not selfish, they are rational. Does the government need to reclaim land? If you want to purchase milk, will you go to Yuen Long and get fresh milk, or rather go to the supermarket? The government has some 900 hectares that could be used for public housing. We can accommodate 1.6 million people. So shouldn't the government utilize the formed land, the unused land? The government also exaggerates the population growth. There should be 8.42 million rather than 8.9 million. Regarding irreversible damage from reclamation, some other people have talked about that. I don't need to repeat. I want to share some survey results. 93% object. 94% feel that there are insufficient reasons for reclamation. I want to highlight 76% of Ma'an residents are aware that Maliu soil would be reclaimed. Only 40% are aware of the site. They feel that there's insufficient consultation. The residents also feel Chan Mo Paul Chan should visit rather than sell it through his blog. I'm considering not paying my taxes. The concerned group feels that the project is very rushed. Aside from lack of planning, the government seems to also want to water down consultation work. It's only towards the end that they realized resident realized that there was a negative impact. There were only 2 public consultations. It was held in Qingyi and Samshipo, far away from Ma'an. And there was only one activity, mobile exhibition in Hangwon in Hangwon Estate. And most ridiculous were the surveys. You could not photocopy it. You had to collect it in person. But it was only open from 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. You can't collect it before work, and you can't collect it after you finish work. And the staff said the forms were handed out by 4 o'clock. So are you really trying to consult the public? They have not arranged other consultation exercises. Based on that, I object to Maliu's reclamation. We have Mr. Lo Kai-yu from the Lion Rock Party. We want the government to be careful with public money, public funds. How come the whole consultation has not mentioned how much money will be spent? So we try to do the estimates ourselves. For every hectare, the government has to spend 100 million. They are now trying to reclaim 2,000 to 3,000 hectares. They will be spending 300 billion. The financial secretary in his financial address, he will subsidize 20 university students. He only spends 480 million. So 300 billion each year, we can send 15,200 students overseas. And every year, 15,200 students, it's equivalent to the 2 universities' enrollment. We don't need to set aside land to build new universities. We can send the students overseas. So do we need to spend so much money? 100 million for 1 hectare. Why don't we just purchase land from indigenous villages in new territories? But don't get happy too early. A lot of land has been sold to real estate developers. But as a lot of people say, Hong Kong territorial waters, and it's like the near extinct white dolphin. So we shouldn't bow to pressure and neglect the Chinese white dolphin. Therefore, we need to develop new territories. That is the most accountable and responsible option. Mr. Leung Fok from Yuen Long District Council. Reclamation outside Victoria Harbour and developing caverns. My slogan is to promote development. I'm an indigenous villager representative. I have some suggestions. In 2010 and 2011, in the 2011-2012 policy address, there were measures to increase land supply. Hong Kong, 80% of Hong Kong's land is in NT, but the government had, in land planning and land development, they have not emphasized the NT. The social conflicts are increasing. We see a lot of negative sentiment building up. So if there's no review, the consequences cannot be imagined. The Town Planning Board in 2002 and 2006 had taken Yuen Long, Dai Tong, Gam Tin and set it aside for country use purposes. They had wanted to retain the local characteristic, but in the 10 years after this policy has been implemented, there have been no successful cases. It's unattractive, so I suggest this planned land, we should release the plot ratio from 0.4 to 0.8, and the zoned areas should have infrastructure to reduce the development costs. and the existing operators, they should be given some relief and release land. Fourth, if we should review the planning process to allow applicants a more convenient process. The 2011 policy address. In the long term, we should have more land development, and the government should release the NT unused land.
Right. Thank you. If the speakers have already got their speaking notes, please give us your speaking notes, and you can put your name on your speaking notes, and then when you leave, give your speaking notes to our staff members, and they will give the speaking notes to our LegCo members. Since we don't have much time left, and we only have 2 members of the council who want to ask questions, I'll allow them to ask the questions. Each will have 3 minutes. Ms. Emily Lau. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to thank the deputations and individuals for coming to give their views. Mr. Chairman, from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. we have this meeting, and a lot of people will be coming, and next door there is another meeting going on. Over 100 people will come to give their views. So the government knows, or the administration should know, that people are strongly against your proposal. People are living in poor conditions, subdivided flats. Many are waiting for PRH. That's a fact. But the proposals made by the administration are opposed by many groups. This morning and in the afternoon we'll hear more views. It's a pity and indeed regrettable that the Secretary is not present. We need to put him on the waiting list, on the wanted list. Now his nameplate is put there, but he doesn't appear. I think Paul Chan doesn't know how to handle the situation. Everybody has 24 hours. If the administration can give priority to the Legislative Council, then the Secretary should be present. Today, 100 people are coming, and he is not present. The permanent Secretary is a civil servant. Now, there is a team of principal officials who are appointed under the accountability system, but he is not here to answer the question. Are there a lot of vacant land? Why privileges are given to the new territory, indigenous people? Why there are private clubs who get land from the government paying a nominal rent? Why there are so many container yards? And now you're going to reclaim land. That will affect the fishermen. That will affect the green groups. These are our concerns. Why can't the administration deal with these problems? So this paper cannot address the concerns of the people. Now, how can you have sustainable development if you fill up the sea? So how are you going to move forward? We really want to deal with these problems. Chairman, is the Permanent Secretary going to answer the question? Now, where is the Policy Secretary? If you don't know, say you don't know. So who knows where Paul Chan is? We need to put him on the wanted list. Mr. Chairman, do you know? I don't know. Well, they've used up my time. Chairman, do you know? Where is the Policy Secretary? Well, he must be in Hong Kong. The Secretary, we have not received any notice. When the latest notice was that he would come. Well, please answer the questions. Please answer her questions. Even if the secretary does not come, he can still hear the opinions because all these will be recorded. All these are recorded. Do you know where he is? I've already answered the question. So he doesn't know. Mr. Albert Chan. Thank you, Chairman. I want to put on record that I strongly condemn this policy secretary who runs subdivided flats. Now, concerning the shortage of land, that's an outstanding issue. Since the introduction of 9 tricks by Michael Soon, we condemn the government for favoring the developers. The shortage of land was the result of the Michael Soon's 9 tricks, and during the several years of Zhang's government, Hong Kong had shortage of land. Hong Kong needs about 400,000 or 500,000 units, and we need 4 to 5 Tin Shui Wai in order to deal with housing supply, in order to meet the rising needs for public housing and also for private housing. There is a need to catch up the shortage that occurred in the past 10 years. There are several ways to find land. One is by reclamation, as proposed by the administration. The other is to get more sites from existing land, get more land from existing sites. Say, for example, you get 800 units, you have to fight the Baptist University. We have been developing new towns. In the past 30 years, history has proved us correct. We may need to change our mindset. We may need to find other ways to replace the new towns, but I am not able to find an alternative. A new development area accommodating say 100,000, 200,000 people is not easy. You may need to change huge pieces of farmland into residential land. You may need to change part of the country parks into residential land. If you don't do that, then property prices will continue to escalate, and I see no chance of helping people who are living in the subdivided flats. I think Hong Kong people have to change their mindset, whether it is by way of discussion or by whatever means. How can you build 40 or 4 or 5 Tin Shui Wai in the coming decade or so? I just want to know who is interested in answering the question. You may give us an answer after the meeting. You can do it. You really need to cut part of the country park, or you need to reclaim some of the land from the sea, or you need to use agricultural land. The agricultural land are owned by many big developers, and there will be the criticism of collusion. We have overrun, so I hope that you will be brief and precise in your questions and answers. 3 members are still in the line, so I will have to shorten the time allocated to them. Ms. Chen Yun Han. What do you mean? Is it 2 minutes or 3 minutes? Well, limited to 2 minutes. Concerning what was said by Ms. Yao, I'm really astonished. If you call it consultation and if Ms. Yao is right, then you owe us an answer. It is just a bogus consultation. You say you have already consulted the people. So the Permanent Secretary has answered the question. The relationship between the executive and the legislature is very important. If you come or you don't come, you need to tell us. When you told us that you will come, but you don't come, that is really strange. I don't know what has happened. I have never come across a situation in which other government officials don't know why the Secretary is not able to come or whether he is coming or not. Now, if the consultation is as what has described by Ms. Yao, then the consultation is a bogus consultation. When I go to get the questionnaires, you have already closed down. Yeah, I think they owe us an answer. Yes, I'll ask them to answer the question. Next, Mr. Raymond Chan. Chairman, I need to strongly condemn the Secretary for Development, Paul Chan. Now, according to our paper, Paul Chan should be here from 9 to 7, and people come here because of him. So I hope the Permanent Secretary can clarify this. If he has decided not to come, or rather people have decided to come because they know the Secretary is coming and they want to speak to him. I would like to thank the deputations, in particular those who oppose reclamation. I hope you will continue to work hard. This is only the second stage of consultation. Northeast Development, they had 3 rounds of consultation, and it seems that it is fait accompli, but now they are going to defer that, the development of Peng Che Ta Kwu Ling. Probably Peng Che Ta Kwu Ling people are more influential. As for consultation, the consultation on Northeast Development, there were a lot of problems. The administration has not learned the lessons. Ms. Yao of the Malusui Concern Group raised a number of issues, and we really don't know how they distribute the questionnaires. Maybe you need to fight for the questionnaires. You need to buy the questionnaires. If that is the case, then we really want to know what is meant by consultation. We need to look at the timetable, the agenda of the consultative meetings. Now, the consultation paper is misleading. They ask you how they can use the reclaimed sites. They don't ask you whether you support the reclamation or not. It seems that the reclamation is definite. So the consultation is not impartial. Now, when they set the questions in the questionnaire, will the questions be loaded questions? Will the questions be misleading? We are not told about the details of the questionnaire. We may need a special meeting or a working group to look into these consultation questionnaires and exercises. And, Chairman, I think we need to deal with that. Okay, thank you. Mrs. Regina Yip. Chairman, just a brief point. I'd like to thank the deputations for coming. I've heard that many are concerned about dolphins, campers, homes, and shorelines. But over 200,000 people are waiting for PRH, and over nearly 200,000 people are living in subdivided flats. We need land to accommodate these people who are living in poor conditions. I receive many calls for help. If we do nothing, then how can we deal with these problems? How can we help these citizens who have urgent needs? I also want to ask the officials, what is your priority in developing the sites? Do you first develop the luxury flats, or do you care for those who wait for PRH first? And how do you deal with the priorities for developing new industries? 3 more members are still in the line. I think the 3 members may raise their questions in the next round. Is it possible? Chairman, I suggest you allow those members to ask their questions. We can shorten our lunch time. We cannot defer our afternoon session. You better allow the members to ask questions. Mr. Chang Han-ban, I don't repeat the questions asked by members. Concerning the fishermen, my colleague, Mr. Ho Chun-yin, and myself is very concerned about this. Infrastructure always affect the sea. The prohibition of trawling has already caused a lot of problems to the fishermen. And if there is further reclamation, what would the impact on fishermen? The administration allows them to go into recreation fishing. But if there is no assistance, how can the fishermen make a living? As said by Mr. Keung, they are really driven to death. They belong to the minority, and they need to be protected. Can the administration tell the fishermen whether they have a future or not? I have two more members on the list. Ms. Priscilla Leung. Developing a new town is a must. Every time when we discuss the housing problem, we ask the administration to develop new towns. I do not agree with Ms. Albert Chan that we should have a few more Tin Shui Wai. The model should be something like Tsuen Wan and Sha Tin. They are more successful. Now, when Sha Tin and Tsuen Wan were built, there were a lot of public housing and there were a lot of government facilities. I asked the administration before, the WSD office in Mongkok, the site can be redeveloped. Now some facilities will be moved to the new towns, but I think that project is called to a halt. There's a need to balance the interests of different sectors. And if there is any damage to the living conditions of a particular community, then we need to provide the compensating measures. You can't just build housing blocks in a remote area and then leave them there without giving the facilities. Now, if people are living in the new territories, if the housing blocks are provided with good connections, then it's still okay. Say I lived in the new territories, but I went to school in the mid-levels. Mr. Leung Kok-hong. We really need to consider the questionnaires drawn up by the administration. Now, if you're dying, I'll give you hospice service. That's meaningless because we don't want to die. If I'm living in a subdivided flat, if LegCo members oppose reclamation, how can you solve my problem?
In fact, I've put this question to the administration in the housing panel. I asked for statistics. For instance, places like Jordan Valley site. I asked what will be the future use of that site, and I was told that for luxury flats, even in the Northeast anti-development site, there will be a large proportion of the area for low-density housing development. So you have to understand this. Even after reclamation, the housing development there may not necessarily be for you. How are they going to use that for PRH? Because it has got beautiful sea view and the land is expensive. So the government has to tell us. So will there be enough land for more housing development? First, ask the administration. And secondly, town planning should not be just decided by the government. There must be a more thorough consultation. All right, I'll give the floor to the administration to respond to concerns or comments raised by the deputations, individuals, and administration. Please answer in 5 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. I'm very grateful to all the deputations and individuals present. I'd like to spend more time for my colleagues to talk about consultation, because Ms. Donna Yao only talked about the first part of a consultation, and we've also done a lot in addition to that. And Mrs. Regina Ip asked a very good question. We have already got a shortage of land here, and we must have solutions, and that's why we have proposed a three-pronged approach and also built up the idea of land reserve. We need a six-pronged approach because there are inadequacies in each proposal. Well, we cannot just look at sea ecology. Both land and sea or natural environment. We have to protect both of them. So we must adopt a six-pronged approach in order to be sustainable. Sustainability is not just about environmental protection. We have to consider environmental protection, economic needs, and social needs. Some legislators mention fishermen. Well, according to the fishermen, we've always maintained a dialogue with them. And on reclamation, we've also consulted the fishermen. Our proposed sites are as far away from the mariculture zones as possible. We will continue to communicate with fishermen in the future. Dr. Priscilla Leung I mentioned our Mong Kok government offices. We have not shelved the plan. We intended to buy a factory block and use it for our offices after refurbishment, but it's already too expensive for us to afford. So we're going to build a purpose-built office block. And regarding public consultation, now if we don't even have an idea of the scope of reclamation, how can we consult the public? So we have to conduct the feasibility studies before we consult the public. And regarding public consultation, perhaps I can ask my colleague to respond to the concern by Protect Ma Liu Shui. Yes? Anyone? Good morning. On the 21st since the 21st of March, we have consulted a number of organizations, including 7 district councils, where there will be a possible reclamation or cavern development. We've also discussed with legislators or district councillors of different political parties. We have also organized over 60 meetings, forums, and seminars. And for Ma Shan, we have got 3 forums, and each time the attendance was 80 odd or 100, even 100. And then in the coming Saturday, there will be another forum. Regarding CU Hong Kong and also Hong Kong U, we've attended consultation forums organized by the student unions, and views from professional bodies and think tanks. Well, they have got more support for the 6-pronged approach. Of course, they have noted concerns about land use and environmental protection quoted by members of the public, and we've been asked to take care of these. Regarding the public forums of Mao Shan, in a few forums, I have heard very clearly that the residents there are very concerned about possible reclamation in their neighborhood. Of course, they are living in housing developments are built on reclaimed land. Of course, the nearest reclamation will be about 300 meters away from them. We understand their concerns. We've tried to address their technical questions as far as possible. And in the consultation forums, we've undertaken to record their views in verbatim for reflection to the government, and these are our considerations in our consultation. For technical issues, they are easier to address. They can be resolved in depth in future studies. Regarding the impact on the community and our assessment, we'll continue to listen to the views of the community so that we can come up with an idea that is compatible to the current community. I'd like to follow up 2 points. Some members asked where the secretary was. This morning, he had to attend 2 radio interviews or phone-in programs. Secondly, in the past decade, we had shelved reclamation. That was a painful decision, and this has resulted in our acute shortage of land. Well, we don't mean to build up a land reserve at once. It can be done in various ways. We can carry out various studies, and if deemed necessary, the reclamation will not be done at all. So is the secretary coming to this meeting after all? So how outrageous he chose to attend a radio program instead of LegCo. Do you know whether he'll be here? P.S. He should be here. When? In the next session. Next session? All right, so the deputations, individuals, if you like, you can stay on to listen to the secretary. All right, we have overrun. So we have to shorten our break. So instead of 15 minutes, we will take a 5-minute break. Okay, we'll come